Paul Davis? Burdick?
Yes.
Also be here. We know Sarah's excused.
Paul may also be, but that's.
Yeah, they were in Texas, I don't know when they were supposed to be
I
back.
think he did say.
He said that last meeting. Pledge allegiance is next. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Confirmation of appropriate meeting notice.
Meeting was noticed on Wednesday, December 29th. Agendas were posted at the post office, library, city hall, and city website.
Thank you. Council acceptance of agenda. So moved. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Personal appearances for non-agenda items. Anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on anything? Okay, let's move on to the minutes from December 20th.
Motion to approve?
Any corrections or additions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Finance Committee, Candy.
Finance met this evening at 6:45. Motion to approve bills and payroll in the amount of $315,225.89.
I'll second.
Any questions on bills?
I got a couple.
Okay.
Page 9, third one off Cedar Court, the 24 agreement with Vulcan Development. Is that for the east of Dean, or what do we call it, One Tree? Or is it one or both?
Could be for both.
Okay.
It's invoiced though. We invoice the developers for all of that.
Okay.
So you won't see it in here, but there will be an offsetting revenue when they pay us, so that's for the inspections that were done in the field.
Okay.
I just don't remember if it was for both or not.
That's why I'm just curious how far along we are, if we're already into One Tree. They're already into One Tree too, though, that
Oh,
part.
almost, I think all the underground's in One Tree, Howard? Are they all done with underground up there?
They're very close. They're not completely done. They're very close.
Yeah, we're all going on pretty good, okay, thanks. Page 11 also, just a quick one, second one down, Payne and Dolan. Did we, I noticed that's quite a bit over what they bid and what we were doing. Did we add to our original projections on what streets we had done?
No, it was the same number of streets we had done, but there was some additional base patching that had to be done, so there was a little bit on every street, so it kind of just
7,000.
raised up. Yeah. I thought the same thing when I first looked at it.
Okay.
But all the tickets added up, and it's still significantly less than the second lowest bidder.
Okay, cool. And this one, I should know this one, but page 15, civic system, second one down. What are we doing there?
Oh, one is the receiving software. That is the software that is in this year's budget for the receiving module.
It sounded familiar.
That's for the utility, correct?
It is primarily for the utility.
The water bills.
Yep, we would have talked about that at utility for sure.
Yes,
And then
okay.
the additional seat is also, I think, came through in a contract for the council approved. It is for one additional seat or access for, we're short one. We're gonna be short one seat right now because this new receiving software will have a dedicated seat required to that computer. So then we're not gonna have enough for everybody to work at the same time. So that was, I think, the council that came through, the council for both of those items.
Yeah, so that if like an extra computer that somebody could take
Correct.
and do the receiving from the
Right.
utilities. So like Ramona wouldn't have to go to somebody's computer to
And keep them on.
kick them out of their seat, yeah.
And both of those items are in Fund 210, which is the ARPA funds.
Yes.
We can always
That's right.
we can always reallocate them to other, but it'll mainly be used for the utility, but the ARPA funds were the ones that we thought we would probably pay for. So that's why it's on the council agenda opposed to the utility agenda.
And I think just as a matter of note for the council is that if there are things that are ARPA eligible, but the council hasn't said you're going to use ARPA for it, we will put them into 10 and move them later because that is easier than moving them in the other way, because we have to report all this to the federal government, of course. So if it is eligible, as a staff, you haven't already decided, we're gonna tuck it there and account for it there, and then we'll go through that list and you can make final decisions on everything.
And if I recall too, this receiving tool or program is going to save man hours, right? Time by the staff out here too.
Lots.
I just can never remember if that was all discussed at utility or if it was at finance or whatever, but I do recall that discussion, thinking it was a really good thing, that it was gonna save man hours.
Okay, thanks, that's all I have, thanks.
Anyone else? Roll call.
Candy Davis,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Burdick,
Yes.
Langen,
Yes. Motion passes.
Motion to approve the operator's license application for Angela Johnson contingent on her paying outstanding fines due to the city of Edgerton.
I'll second. Any discussion, or does anybody want to see the application there? Is okay with that? Okay. Roll call.
Candy Davis,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Burdick,
Yes.
Langen,
Yes. Motion passes.
Motion to approve food for fines program that is going to be run by the Edgerton Police Department for the month of December and January.
And I'll second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Candy Davis,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Burdick,
Yes.
Langen,
You must have a fine, that's all I can say. Woo-hoo!
The first one last 2 years ago.
6 cans of soup from Jim Burdick.
And it wasn't me this time, but
Okay.
somebody else close.
Okay. Oh, I got it.
If you need them driven home sometime, just let me know.
Yeah,
I'll take care of it.
I got it. She's probably on speed dial.
Okay.
Unless you want to keep donating. We'll leave it there.
No, she wants to.
We appreciate it.
Okay, I think we got a roll call on that.
yes, we did.
Okay. Okay, motion to approve supersized ED grant for 6 West Fulton Street in the amount of $6,000.
Now, second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Candy Davis,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Burdick,
Yes.
Langen.
Yes. Motion passes.
That's it for finance.
Thank you. RDA.
We just voted on the one thing we did.
Okay. Fire district.
Chief Pickering is here to give us a brief update.
So as I was handing this out, I made the comment, it's very preliminary, we're at the third, fourth of the month, so there's a lot of things we gotta solve, but I did at least want to share with you where we wrapped up the year. 125 911 incidents during the month of December, that is a record, all-time record. We ended the year at 1,096 911 incidents, 10.5% year over year. It did happen, I was having a conversation with some chief down in Beloit, just as a point of reference today, and he commented they are 11% year over year. So, and you know, anecdotally, everybody's being hit by this. Just everybody I talk to is dealing with the same challenges, both on the law enforcement and the fire side. So, I'll make a comment at some point, so I might as well do it right now. A lot of this is COVID related. The Omicron variant is extremely contagious compared to its predecessors, and we are seeing the impact of it. Candy's aware of this.
We had one scare inside the fire station, which we do everything imaginable to make sure that we're protecting our personnel. We evacuated the building, we brought in a decontamination service immediately, didn't let anybody back in, we decontaminated the entire building. We're seeing it in the calls we're going to in terms of the health impacts of people long-term, whether they have COVID now or they had it in the past, and sort of the continuation kind of issues. So very challenging for us, and we don't see that going away for at least in the near-term future. Interfacility transfers, that business has worked out really, really well, 581 for the course of the year. And what we've been able to do is take some of the excess proceeds. I know we talked about this at budget time, but we take the excess proceeds off the transfer business, and we bring that back into the 911 side of our business to offset needs, right? So we've dealt with an 11% increase in call volume, but our tax impact from a levy perspective actually went down this year. So there's a good benefit there to the community for what our personnel are doing. You kind of see the breakdown of incidents between EMS calls, crashes, fire incidents, water rescues and stuff. The one that I point out quite a bit to people is the amount of mutual aid. 75 mutual aid incidents where we went out of the district to help surrounding communities. Tie back to COVID for a second. There is a EMS district that right now tonight has no personnel available to respond. Their entire staff are out on COVID protocol. So the precautions we've taken, I give Jason a tremendous amount of credit, and again, you guys have heard this all year for the last 2 years. The amount of precaution we've been taking and sort of the pit bull attitude about making sure we get this right has helped us. I mean, I live every night in fear that we're going to lose it, something happens. But we're doing well, and we're seeing the impact of it around us. This will come up in a second. One of the benchmarks we track, there are 2 national standards for fire response. One is first unit on scene. The national standard is 5 minutes. When you protect a district that's 100 square miles, you just kind of run the math. The word impossible comes to mind pretty quick. And then the other standard is 15 personnel on scene within 9 minutes. And that's in terms of a primary attack crew, a backup attack crew, a safety crew outside, search and rescue crew, all the things that go into dealing with a working structure fire. That's the standard nationally. We did have one structure fire during the month of December. Our first arriving unit was on scene in 5 minutes and 2 seconds. So I was extremely proud of that. And the one that just blows me away, we had 15 people on scene in 11 minutes and 7 seconds. So I've told the staff how proud I am of that accomplishment, and I really do mean it. It was a good job. The other thing that's on there, we've been bringing to the board's attention the number of back-to-back and multiple calls we've been dealing with. During December, a 9-call day, 2 8-call days, 2 7-call days. As Candy pointed out to me earlier tonight, the number of times we have all 3 ambulances on calls simultaneously is, I mean, you wouldn't expect that. And we had that, we lost track actually, the number of times during December. There was at least one point where we could have used 4 ambulances. So I keep facetiously talking about it. If you think we just blow the sirens continuously because we like blowing sirens, a lot of activity. Significant events. I know I commented on this last month. I want to comment on it again. We just sincerely appreciate the fellowship and partnership we have with the Edgerton Police Department. December 3rd, we had 2 simultaneous PMD calls going. The officers did an absolutely outstanding job until we were able to get the paramedics to the scene. So I just really appreciate that, Bob, and always have. And then December 13th, 505 Stoughton Road was the structure fire. It was a fire contained to the kitchen. Thank heavens it all worked out fine. Everybody was evacuated. a lot of smoke, things like that, which are really kind of a concern in an elderly housing complex. But the staff was very responsive. We identified a couple of things that they're going to take care of, so we don't have issues going forward. But all in all, worked out really well. The one thing that's not in here is any discussion about where we are with the city of Milton, towns of Milton, Harmony, Lima, and Johnstown. They are jointly holding a press conference next Monday, I believe at 1 o'clock, where they're going to publicly announce their intentions. You probably have already figured out what those are, but I'll certainly give them the courtesy to let them announce their intentions at that press conference. They're going to talk about, over the last 18 months, the amount of due diligence they have done, looking at multiple options. And most of those have played out in the newspaper. Right? Unfortunately, their evaluation process was very public. And so the fact that all 5 of them have come together with a single decision, and I'll just comment that all 5 entities, it was a unanimous decision by the councils and the boards of all 5 entities as to what they intend to do. So we look forward to that announcement, and then we've kind of set up at the district board meeting on the 12th to be ready for the potential of a petition coming forward to join our district. So that's kind of where we are there. Soup nuts and year-end wrap-up, all in one.
The only other thing I would add is typically district board meetings, monthly board meetings are on the 2nd Thursday in the evening of every month. For January and February, it will be on the 2nd Wednesday. Then we'll go back to the Thursday, but because of some conflicts, we're moving it to Wednesday. So January 12th, Wednesday, is our next meeting, which Chief just gave us a little heads up that we are expecting the 5 townships to petition the fire district.
Is there gonna be a public information meeting that's outside of a normal district meeting?
A very good question. We've tried very hard not to jump the gun, right, and make any assumptions or presumptions, I guess. But clearly, and so we've talked about, there's a couple of things. There's some meetings that have to happen with the staff of the existing entity that serves those municipalities. We have not been able to hold those meetings until they're, right? So that's on the agenda. And then we've talked about an information session for our 5 municipalities. The way the process works, there's a staff evaluation that has to occur. That's going to take probably a couple of months because of the level of depth that we're going to have to go in that evaluation. But to get ahead of sort of the what ifs and the questions, we've talked about doing kind of an informational session for our 5 municipalities. There will be more questions than there are answers at that point, but we at least want to maybe over-index on information sharing. What we're looking at, what was proposed, that kind of thing. The real question that we've kicked around, no decision on it, I guess, at this point, is do we do that as one session for all 5 of our municipalities? Efficient for us. Kind of puts the burden on your guys' back, or do we do them individually, or, and I think we're wide open to whatever would work. The real work that you, as one of our 5 municipalities, is going to have to deal with after we do the evaluation and after there's a negotiation sessions to what would have to be changed in the intergovernmental agreement. All of that has to take place. Then it comes to our 5 municipalities to look at it. That's probably 3-4 months down the road. So the real work starts, again, maybe on where it starts taking up time on your platter is April, May. But clearly we want to be very open about everything that's going on while we're doing the evaluation.
Yeah, good question. We did talk about that at the last district board meeting because, I mean, think about it, Jim and I are close enough to it because of the meetings. Jim's the alternate, and we're hearing this every month, and we're living it, if you will. But nobody else, I mean, I would anticipate you guys would have a lot of questions. And the community, if I were, you know, if I wasn't involved like this, I would be wondering, well, what does this really mean? So, yeah, we're trying to figure out what would be best and most efficient. Somewhere to do that.
We clearly have to do the staff analysis to really be able to get to the points of what does this mean, right? We can conject all sorts of stuff, right? But until we do the analysis, you really can't say, yeah, this is what it really means.
Yeah, and if it comes to the board, the board says, no, we don't want this, it's down, you know, then there's no need for that. But as Chief said, it's kind of a process.
We're gonna try to over-communicate. I mean, we really are. We've tried to do that all along.
Because we certainly don't want to lose our 5-minute and 2-second response
Exactly.
time in that particular case.
In that particular case, exactly.
Casey?
And I said, I wanna go back to COVID a little bit. And
I don't. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't want to either. But I don't work in the medical field, so I just kind of want to like get more clarification. When you talked about the increased activity in numbers, so this, I'm sure a lot of it's anecdotal, but I mean, do you get more calls where the EMTs come in and the person's like clearly sick with COVID, and it's like,
Oh, yeah.
they should have went to the doctor, and now it's to the point they're calling an ambulance when.
I didn't mean to, yeah. So you've got two things going on. The healthcare system in entirety is overwhelmed right now. And so it isn't necessarily that people are choosing not to go get it dealt with. There's just, they can't deal with it. The healthcare system actually can't hospitalize all the people that would normally, I think, be hospitalized. There was one point last week, in our healthcare region, there are, I think it's 31, either 31 or 37 hospitals in our region. Of those 31 hospitals, there were only 10 ICU beds anywhere in the region. And it's not just for the COVID-related things, right? But somebody who is going through open heart surgery at a hospital, you come out of surgery, you go into the ICU, right? And so they're actually postponing critical surgeries because they have no place to put people in the ICU. There was one news coverage, one of the hospitals in the region actually had ICU beds lined up in the hallways. Not exactly my definition of ICU, but so part of the challenge is, and the hospitals even challenge us about, does this person need to be transported? Because the more people we bring in the door, the more problems they have. On the back end of that, and this is totally anecdotal, but one of the other companies that specializes in interfacility transfers, we don't specialize in it, we do it, but we don't specialize in it. One of the companies that specializes in it, normally their ambulances would do 6 or 7 transfers in an 8-hour shift, right? They're just kind of the turn and burn, take grandma home after an appointment, all that kind of stuff. They're down to 2 transfers per shift per ambulance because hospitals in certain regions of the state are having to send people to the entire other section of the state to find an available hospital bed. So it's just the ripple impact of this is hitting in every segment of the healthcare environment. So I don't know that it's people consciously not going to get the treatment they should, but certainly there are people at home that normally would be in hospital beds. And hospitals are challenging us to make sure that we're only bringing them the people that absolutely have to come in. So, yeah.
Okay, that's
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, the next item is to consider second reading and adoption of City of Edgewood Ordinance 2112, amend Chapter 12, Section 12.0813, lead and galvanized water service line replacement, and Section 12.0816, disconnection of service of the Code of General Ordinances.
No, sorry.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Langen,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Burdick,
Yes.
Candy Davis,
Yes.
Motion passes. Here, all the person and staff reports. I have nothing, other than try to stay warm for a couple of days here. Anyone else?
Nice job, Howard, you and your crew on the first snowfall plowing was first snowplow.
Also, I know my guys wanted to compliment Howard's crew on Friday when we had all that sleet and freezing rain. His guys were out there, my guys were very thankful. The highways were atrocious with accidents, and yet our streets were pretty passable. So hats off to, I know my midnight guys wanted to make sure that they received the thanks for that.
Thanks, chief. It's a team effort. Our guys are very happy with the police department for ticketing all the parked cars that are in our way. It's all coming together.
Leave it fifth next time.
Okay, anybody else have anything? Otherwise, we can move on to that motion to adjourn there.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.